Today we have Robert Moseley, CEO and founder of GTM Engine, and really excited to walk through what they're bringing today. They're building the platform that is the perfect platform if you're in sales, SDR, anything go to market. And they are really pulling together some of the most important components of being the best version of yourself when you're selling to your prospects. So Robert, really excited to have you here. And also, every time we have a founder, I love just hearing what gave you the idea and inspiration to get GTM Engine off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, Anthony. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm kind of a startup junkie, right? So this is my ninth startup actually, like first one I founded, but I mean, backing up a little bit, I started my career as a software engineer out of college. I joined this little company called Jobs to Web. It was a startup, like literally in like a dentist's office. We ended up getting acquired. And I made enough money to like buy a car. And like for somebody fresh out of college, I'm like, oh man, startups are super cool. Like this all happen every time, right? Like why wouldn't everybody just work for startups? So then I just kind of got the startup bug after that. Did it again and again and again. So I mean, it's been going on for like 17 years now. Um, how we got here is like I'm typically like first on board on the go-to-market team, right? So, MoveWorks, part of like the first crew of folks hired there. Same thing at Harvey, same thing at Copy AI. So I always end up like setting up the systems too, right? It's like, okay, usually we don't even have a CRM, right? Okay, so how do we put together a process from scratch? Which is interesting because it's both an opportunity because you get to set it up the way that you want. Um, but it's also so like I love that part. But like the thing that frustrated me over and over is like as you grow, as you scale, as you get people actually like using the system, like it inevitably falls apart. It always does, right? And I think like this is part of the problem you guys solve is like you go in and you clean things up for people. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about this because, when you put so much time and effort into something just for it to like not work, it's like, well, what makes it not work? Right. And basically I came to the conclusion that it's people. You can put the best process in place ever, but if there's no way to like legitimately enforce that process, um, it's going to break. Right. And I think like sales is a perfect example of this. Because like you have CRMs, which are essentially reporting tools, and they're really good at that. And, there's an ecosystem around them and they're integrated into all these other systems. And so theoretically, if everything is correct in there, everything flows, everything's, rosy, you can see exactly what's going on. But as you know, like that's never the case. So when I wanted to start this company because I think we're in a spot now where like AI got powerful enough where it can like just and everybody has a call recorder. It can synthesize like calls, it can synthesize emails. You see this, everybody uses a call recorder today. So give me a summary, give me a follow-up, what are my next steps, stuff like that. But like more powerful than that are like, well, what are the questions that your entire leadership team like wants to know about your sales process, right? So those are the 100 custom fields that you have in the opportunity object that you expect the sales team to fill out, which they don't. And even when they do, it's like usually like not trusted, right? Because that's not their job. Like they're salespeople. They're supposed to be selling, not like doing like data entry. They spend like 20% of their time doing this stuff just to do it poorly. But anyways, like AI got to the point where it could do that. So it's like instead of just a summary, like what if we listened in and like continuously like grabbed every piece of data, every piece of communication that happened on every single opportunity, and not just like give you a summary on here's how the call went, but like, hey, these are the fields. Like this for us, like CRM they use, the call recorder they use. This is their use cases. This is their buying process. This is their budgetary cycle. Here are the people that are involved. Here are an array of competitors that have been mentioned and the use cases under which they've been mentioned. Because when you can do that's really the only way to solve it, right? Like you get people out of the process. So yeah, I've been banging our heads against the wall on this problem for about a year and a half now. I think we cracked it. Like I think we're there, which is pretty cool because I mean, like it does really open the floodgates for some really cool stuff when you figure that out.
I think you've done a phenomenal job, and I'm really excited because I know you have a demo prepared for us today. Um, but really, one of the main pain points that you're solving for is getting that data populated, and it really is the biggest breakdown in the process. So, and because humans are humans, they forget what was said on a call, or they don't articulate it in the data the right way, or they simply just don't do it because You're mainly hiring people who should be in front of people all day. Like you said, they should be selling,
Yeah.
not entering data. But it's all the rich data that the company needs to make decisions. So automating that flow of data into a structured manner into your CRM is just unbelievably valuable. So, and I know there's so much more to GTM Engine, but starting there and solving that problem
Yeah.
first really unlocks so much more potential.
Yeah. I mean, like you have to solve that problem first. It's not just like getting the data in there, right? Like you also have to have the relationships correct. So meaning like who am I talking to on this opportunity? There's an object in Salesforce called opportunity contact role, which I'm sure you're aware of. And like no one uses it, right? So it's like, who are our champions? Like if you ask a really good salesperson, they'll rattle it off. It's like, yeah, Brenda's our champion. She's great. We were texting last night. She told me that she's talking to Steve next week and they're going to make a decision on this, but they're also looking at this. Like they'll rattle it off, right? Like none of that stuff is in Salesforce though. And so how is leadership supposed to like help coach, help like block and tackle, like, hey, maybe they can go talk to like the VP of sales while the sales rep is talking about that. Or maybe we need to bring in a solutions engineer to run a demo for this person who, is kind of skeptical about our solution and is on more on the technical side. What should they show? What should they talk about? What were they skeptical about? Like all the stuff is up here, but it never get like that handoff gets fumbled all the time. Right. So like one, you have to get like the data in there, which is really important for like reporting and dashboarding purposes. But like you also have to create the records, right? Like, is there a contact in Salesforce for every person that you've talked to on this opportunity? Like, probably not. Like, is there any data on that contact? Do you actually know who they are? Like, even what role they are? Like, maybe role and like basic stuff like that. But what by role I mean like what role are they playing in this like procurement process, sales process? Um, because then you can start to turn your CRM into like, it's even hard today to like build a report that's like, give me a list of all my customers. Usually that can't even be done in Salesforce, which is wild because like C in CRM stands for customer. Like, but you can't even give you like a reliable list of who your customers actually are, what they own, how much they're using it, like who's using it. Can't do that. And that's the whole promise. So you need to like remove humans even from that stuff to like really get that right. And you got to get that right first. And then all the other cool stuff falls into place.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard some of these promises before, but your platform is the first time I've seen it done in a really elegant and intentional way. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for you to kind of show what does it look like when you're in GTM Engine, what type of data, what's capable, so people can kind of get their hands wrapped around what this can do for their GTM org too.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let me just jump into that then. Um, as I'm pulling this up, there's actually kind of like a crawl, walk, run way that we typically recommend folks start. So it starts with, I'd say, the RevOps people, right? And so like the very first thing is just like connecting systems, right? So connecting your CRM, connecting your call recorder, connecting to Slack or Teams or like whatever, going through and then connecting up your Gmail, whatever you're using there, setting up your team structure, boring stuff, right? Setting up your field mappings, right? It's like it sets up an instant two-way sync. So every time like, we update, a field that we're filling out, we sync that back to the CRM, HubSpot, Salesforce. Um, this can run completely in the background, right? So like typically we recommend just like start this stuff. Like let's just start like auto creating the records. Like so via integration with email calendar, we see a new email, we create that record, we run the associations, we run research and enrichment on that. And then any thing that's said in that email or anything that's said in the call that they participated in is synthesized and updated on that record. And then we'll create like, the opportunity contact roles and stuff. And then you kind of like first process, just like remove humans from that role. Like AEs, hey, you no longer have to fill out Salesforce. I know it sounds like a very bold claim to make, but it's 100% true. Like they're bad at it anyways. You don't even want them doing that, right? Like even if you could do it as good as they're doing it today, which is really poorly, you would do that every single time because that gives them like 10-20% of their time back to like actually sell, which is super useful. But then like something interesting happens like after that, like then you start to realize like tools like Salesforce like aren't really built for salespeople. Like they're built for reporting and dashboarding and leadership, but they're not built for salespeople to help them like actually sell, right? They're built so they're like CRUD interfaces. They go in there, they input data, they get yelled at every, Wednesday before like the weekly forecast call to make sure like the CRM is updated. And that's all the time they spend in it. They use other tools to take notes, completely. So anyways, like then we built a UI. It's like, okay, well, if they don't have to, if the interface for inputting data no longer makes sense because they're no longer inputting data, like what does an interface look like? Right? Because then they become consumers of data instead of producers of data. Meaning like, hey, here's everything in your pipeline for this quarter that you have closing. Here's the healthy stuff that we think is going to close. And we think it's going to close when you think it's going to close. And here's some of the unhealthy stuff. So anything highlighted in yellow, like this isn't going well. Like either health score is low, meaning like probably they're not going to buy from you. Or maybe like health score is high, like some of these, but it's just like in a different quarter, right? So it's like they're going to buy, but it's just not like they're not going to get it done in time for you to like hit your number this quarter. So it's just kind of like, okay, what should I work on, right? The other thing is the biggest thing that I've seen in like my 17 years in sales is that like stuff just falls through the cracks. You're managing 20 opportunities. Inevitably stuff falls through the cracks. So we built this calendar view. This does a couple things. Let me share this. What's really neat about this is it only shows you like your external meetings. This is just dummy data too, so don't get like too married to this, but shows you external meetings. It's color coded as well. So like red means like you had the meeting, but you didn't follow up at all, right? So like clearly I've done a very poor job here according to this dummy data. Green means you did follow up and they responded, and then it'll be color coded yellow if you followed up and they didn't respond. So like you immediately know like, crap, I forgot to follow up after this. Like I followed up with these guys, but I'm probably need to nudge them because they never got back to me. And like this one is good to go. And then also, who are you meeting with, right? What are your upcoming meetings, right? What's it going to be about? What's the status of the opportunity? Who are you meeting with? Like what's interesting to know about them? How does our product align for them? We're lucky because we're salespeople selling to salespeople. So like we're kind of like practitioners of our own tool. That's not always the case. Like when I was at MoveWorks, we were selling to IT service desk managers, right? Like the salespeople were not IT service desk managers. They had never done that role. They didn't even know what ITSM stood for. So just being able to like guide them, be like, hey, here's who you're meeting with. Here's why they're going to care about our product. Here's what you should talk about, right? Personally, for each individual that's going to be involved in that is a pretty big deal just for preparing correctly for meetings. Any questions on that?
No,
Makes sense.
it makes a ton of sense. And I think that calendar view is probably my favorite because that's how I think about, I do a lot of selling, especially the founder, early stage, you're going to be doing a lot of selling. So this is part of my workflow. And then so seeing,
Yeah.
I use my calendar for everything. So that's how I remember, well, hey, what meetings did I have? And I love that it's like, hey, you didn't follow up with them. And it really is as simple as that. It's,
Yeah.
are you giving them the information they need? Are they being responsive? And then, yes, getting all the information kind of in one place in your cockpit to manage everything that's on your plate. I 1000% agree. Salesforce is not built for salespeople. I think it's built for RevOps more than anyone. So getting the information that they
Right.
need is great.
They do a pretty poor job at building for RevOps.
Yeah.
That's the case.
Well, of all the personas, I think that's like RevOps leadership. People just want to see the dashboards.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? Like what's actually happening in our pipeline, what's going to close this quarter, what's healthy, what's not healthy.
But people loathe going into an opportunity or going into a contact to update stuff. Like nobody ever wants to.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of buttons and like oftentimes like, you'll go in there because you want to move the stage. Hey, I just had a good call. They agreed to POC. I want to move this to the POC stage. You do that and it pops up like warning, you can't do this because you got to fill out these 5 fields first. And then you look at those 5 fields and you're like, I don't know. Right. So then you put like, NA or you make something up or like whatever, just to unblock yourself from being able to move it to that stage. And so, like, just the whole process that you put around that to enforce data collection because they wouldn't do it if you didn't put that enforcement in, actually leads to data that you don't trust, right? But like on the flip side of this, like when we're analyzing all this, like there's other things over here too. Like it's like in your court, these are like emails in your inbox related to an opportunity that require a response that you haven't responded to, or meetings like this that you haven't followed up with. We draft this, you can edit this, and you can send it directly from here. And then we're going to show you, how are you performing, right? Where are you at for quota attainment? Where are you expected to land at if nothing changes? And then how do you compare against your colleagues, right? Like on pipeline coverage, okay, I'm pretty healthy here. Win rate, yeah, I'm doing really bad, right? I'm like 33% below my colleagues. So this is something I got to work on if I'm going to like be above an above average AE. This is where my focus needs to be. Like even this stuff is super hard to find. Like even for managers, like you're trying to coach your team. Like how do you know how to coach them if you don't know what they're good at, what they're bad at, and like all your interactions with them are just like asking them, what's going on in this opportunity? What's going on in this opportunity? What's going on in this one? Tell me about this one. Like you never really get a chance to coach. So it's like flips that on its head. You start from like objective data, objective truth, and go from there.
Well, and I think a lot of, at least the good ones, a lot of people in sales want to self-coach and they want to know where they stack up against. It's a competitive environment. So if my win rate's low, then I'm going to be like, hey, how do I get that up?
Yeah. Yeah. Precisely. Exactly. And you need to know like where you're strong. Like I see this all the time with like SDRs that get promoted into an AE role. They're super good at generating pipeline, of course, right? That's what they've done. Basically their whole working life up to that point usually. But they're not good at like managing a complex deal cycle because they haven't done it before, right? So this just like points out like, yeah, you can build, 1,000% pipeline coverage, but if your conversion rate is, a quarter of everybody else, that doesn't really matter, right? You're just burning through all your leads. So the other thing is, so like on this like step of like, hey, start with just collecting the data, cleaning up your CRM. There's a bunch of CRM hygiene stuff here that I didn't talk about too, which like will auto enforce like relationships, ownership. So if like somebody leaves the company and they own all these records, we can automatically like move them over to other people. Here, can we pause for 1 second? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like my robot vacuum just
Yeah. Take your time. I heard something. I thought maybe like the window was open or.
yeah, it's like super loud. You probably can't hear it because of noise cancellation, but for me, it's super loud. All right, I'm back. So anyways, then we can also analyze the opportunity stuff, right? It's like how healthy is it really, right? Like what's likely to close, and this is a spectrum, right? So think of this as like a two-dimensional view. Further right you are on this, like the healthier the opportunity is, the further up you are, the more likely it is to close when you think it's going to close, right? It's like up here would be your safe bets. We think it's going to close, and we think it's going to close when you think it's going to close. Down here, acceleration opportunities. We think it's going to close. We don't think it's going to make it in time for this quarter, like whatever time frame you have selected here. These are the ones like they're not real, right? The AE might include them in their QBR presentation, but they're dead or they're not going to happen. And then up here, it's like this is a really interesting category because it's like if it is going to close, it's going to close in this quarter, but we don't think they're going to select us, right? Either like they're leaning towards competition based on our analysis, or like buying nothing or whatever. But they've explicitly said like, we're going to make a decision by X date, and that date would be like in this quarter.
Yeah. And I think
So if you think
you have those labeled well appropriately, like those are the ones that maybe you have an opportunity to affect. And it's a real,
Yeah.
they may say, hey, we have a deadline to get this done on this date. I've definitely been in deals like that where, all right, it's a bake off against 3 vendors or whatever, and we're making a decision December 1st. Okay. So yeah, it might close then, but like your likelihood of win, like you said, you may need to get in there and really, really position yourself well against whatever alternative they're thinking about.
yeah, they're like not responding, like whatever that might be, right? Um, so basically too, like you're exactly right. Like you hit on a point, which is like the whole reason we built this. Cause it's like, okay, like this is dummy data. So like, this isn't like super aligned with like what I would like. But anyways, like you have your target, right? How am I going to get there? You have your safe forecast. Like let's say that the target line is right here. I got to pull in some at-risk stuff. At-risk being like it's in one of these categories, right? So where would I look first? Personally, I would probably look here. Like I would say like closer to this line, like we think it's going to close, but we don't think it's going to close this quarter, but like just barely. Like down here, it's like further away, right? So I'd look for things close to this line because these are the ones where if you find out early enough in the quarter, like right now, our fiscal year ends, January 31st, but I have 2 months to see if I can do something to accelerate this one, right? That's where I would look first. Now, some of these over here, like, would be good to look at too, right? Like, okay, well, why? Like, are they non-responsive? Are they like, what is it, right? What's super cool about this is like you can dig in and you can start to see because we're tracking all this data. So let's take a look at just like this one, for instance. Like I can see this one and I can click into any opportunity and get like a full sense of all the data, where it's at, what stage it's in, the health score. I can click into this. We actually plot this over time. So you can see like how the health score changes. You can see how the interest score changes, which is a bit different. Like somebody could be interested, but like not have budget. So interest level could be high, but health score could be low. Forecast close date, how this has changed over time with like each touch point. So if like somebody sends in an email and says like, "Hey, super sorry, wasn't able to get budget for this quarter, but let's touch base in February, your fiscal year." Forecast close date would automatically be adjusted. Health score would go down, and we would flag that, right? So you would know right away that like, hey, this thing, like instantly, basically, as soon as the email comes in, like we're processing this stuff and you can start to do things about this. It's like, okay, they didn't get budget, but maybe we can do something clever. Like, hey, if we can get it signed this quarter, like we won't, send you the invoice until next quarter. So, the things that you can do to get around that stuff. But if you find out last day of the quarter, you can't do anything about it, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
I think it's, you know, obviously you can tell, how you've designed the platform. You and your team have had a lot of experience in sales to understand like those nuances, what's important, what matters to somebody who's coaching someone on a deal, and just getting the right information to the right person at the right time. So you can actually do something about hitting your number or not. Where I think a lot of teams, like there are a lot of VPs of sales that are, probably extremely talented, but they just have no way of knowing where to go in and coach their team and help, where they just don't
yeah,
have the right data.
well, I mean, they spend so much time figuring out what's going to close that they have no time to actually like impact what's going to close. You know what I mean? And I think like I've talked to a lot of sales leaders and they really pride themselves. Like we're super accurate on, our forecasting, which is great, right? Like you want to be accurate. Like you can't plan otherwise. Where do we hire? How much budget are we going to have? Where do we cut back? Whatever. Um, I don't think that's really the role. Ideally, I don't think any like like if you actually ask them, it's like, is that really what you should be doing? Like that's not it. Like they want to be like field generals, like front of the line, like on their horse, like saying like, all right, troops over here, we're gonna flank them, and whatever. Maybe a bad metaphor, but I think you get my point. Like that's where their skill set is better used. Um, the other part where this gets super cool, right? It's like we're extracting all this data again, like any field that you want, right? So we understand not only what we know, but what we don't know. So we do good deal gaps and suggested strategies. These are like all the custom fields that we would want to fill out. This can be any data type. It could be like true, false, a number, date, whatever. Um, but what's cool about this is like we also package together like, okay, what are your next steps, right? So it's pulling this out and let's say something like this, like develop a custom ROI calculator using Cyberhaven sales metrics and growth targets, review this with decision makers. So we need to do this. This is hard, right? Like you have to know like what are their sales metrics? What are their growth targets? What is our pricing going to be? Where is our pricing calculator? How did they say that they're going to look at ROI? Because like maybe our standard ROI calculator isn't actually aligned with how they're thinking about this. And as much as salespeople like to think that we can control the process, like, buyers control the process. If they say that this is how they're going to look at it and the CFO says like, this is how I'm going to account for this, then guess what? You're not going to close the deal unless you like give them what they want. So anyways, like to accomplish this task, develop a custom ROI calculator using their sales metrics and growth target. That's a hard job, right? Like the AE probably doesn't have the skill set to do this. They're going to have to pull in lots of people. So we also have this Genie feature, which is like an agent, which I can just say like, ask Genie, right? Help me complete this task. Just click that button, click send. So this agent is like integrated with a bunch of different tools. It's full reasoning. It can do a lot of things. It has access to the whole context, every touch point that we've ever had, all the contacts and who they are, all the data, right? So we know their current team size, we know their projected team size, we know what our annual pricing is going to be because we've talked about this, and just by talking about it, we've extracted that, we've collected that data, and it exists on these records. So you can see like the inner thoughts if you want. So you can see, this user is asking me to develop this. Here are the key decision makers. Here are their pain points. Here's the value proposition mentioned, pricing, growth context. Okay, so now it's starting to put this all together, right? And this is impossible unless you have the underlying data context, right? So because this is all here and we've extracted all this and we've updated it with every single touch point, we have all the inputs that we need to do this. So I can put together really, really cool stuff here. And I could even say, like, once this is done, it's like, okay, what do you want me to do now? You want me to schedule this call? Should we customize the assumptions? Let's say, you're like this one, research any addition. Yeah. Could you research some benchmarks to make the case more tight?
Yeah, and while you're pulling this up, I mean, to ask a sales rep to, 1, take the time to do this, 2, assume they would do it well, and then
Hmm.
3, like, bring in the relevant research and data. I mean, it would be hours and hours of work, if they even
Yeah.
thought about doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that's the thing. And then, I mean, like usually like they're not. I've been in sales for a long time. They don't. They ask somebody else to do it. Usually it would be, somebody like me, which would
Right.
be annoying. But like also like, you jump in, you help. But the other problem is like would get pulled in on these projects and I'd be like, okay, cool, we got to do that. Do we know these things, right? Do we know what their sales team size is? Do we know like how they're thinking about ROI? Like to do this, I have to know those assumptions. Right. So even if I have all the skills to do this manually, I don't have the data to do it correctly. Right. And this is like saving that context, associating that context with these records automatically without having to do anything allows you to do this. This is kind of a cool one. So it actually executed the research step. This is integrated with like things like Perplexity and Exa and whatnot to do actually external research. So it comes back, right? Industry benchmark. They spend this much time with manual legacy systems from the Gartner 2025 reports, 40 to 50% for 40-hour work week. They spend, 12 to 20 hours on admin tasks. Okay. So it's like getting these industry benchmarks directly from, and then it's recalculating this with industry benchmarks. Now imagine how long this would take. We just did this in minutes. Imagine how long this would take to put something together this good that's aligned with their data, what they've said, everything.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the follow-up of this too, like, "Hey, how do you want me to prep this? Let's get this in an email to the decision maker, whoever needs to see this." Like, amazing. Like, taking it not just from the steps, but the actual asset and deliverable, and then the
Yep.
execution on communication. It's huge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like everything to like, and this like path to close here, these suggested next steps, they come from two things, right? There's like your own sales process, which like you configure in like settings and whatever, like when on implementation, you do that. So like we know, hey, here's your stages, here's our entry exit criteria between these stages. Here's typically how we would like a sales process to go. But then it's also contextual, of course, based on like what they've told us during the sales process that we actually need to do next, right? And like probably weighted more towards that stuff. Um, because then you can come in, you can see exactly, okay, how do I move this deal forward? Like, what are my like most critical blockers right now that I have to do? Like, even knowing that's super hard. You'll see emails, hey, do you have time like to touch base next week? Like, that's super lame, right? Your competition is giving them more than that. If that's all you say, like, you're probably not even going to get that next meeting. If you give them exactly what you want because you've listened, maybe you didn't even have to listen, but much more likely to close business. Give every deal like its best chance. And then anybody else can come in here, have visibility on the exact same context that you have. So if you do need to pull in an SE or you want to ask like your management for some coaching advice, they have the context coming in. So the big thing about this stuff too is like this isn't just sales. Like the more and more you think about it, like the one place where you consistently talk to your ICPs is like actually in sales. I mean, customer success, sure, a little bit, but like honestly, like they just set up like, a quarterly check-in, maybe a little bit higher touch at the beginning. But like in sales, you're having multiple conversations every single day with your ICP and your sales team is there, right? And like you've probably seen this where like sales is like, what the hell is marketing talking about? Like, why are they talking about that? Like, we know because we have the most practice in this, like what they want. Like, and I'll give an example. I'm gonna pick on a former company of mine, MoveWorks, which is totally okay because ServiceNow just bought them for like $3 billion. So I don't think they're gonna care that I pick on them. But like we had this problem. Like we're talking to IT service desk managers, and they cared only about, can you resolve tickets for me? I'm underwater. I can't hire enough people. When I hire like a service desk agent, they last 6 months and they're gone. Like we're drowning in tickets, and it takes us 3 days on average to resolve even a simple ticket. It's like, cool. Well, we can do that, right? Hey, give us your ticket data. We'll analyze it. We'll show you exactly how many tickets that we can resolve. And they're like, hey, this is awesome. Let's go. Right. On the marketing side, though, they were talking about like, we had this thing called like Worktopia, where it's like they were marketing us as, and like, yeah, it's like this magical place to work if you buy like MoveWorks, like employee experience. Like I can tell you firsthand that the IT service desk manager like couldn't give two shits about employee experience. Like they were drowning in work and they needed help. Right. So sales, we never got any leads from marketing, by the way. But the SDRs, they were super clever. They would send like examples of this like analysis report that we did. They would send them out, say, hey, we can do this for you. You just send us like, export 12 months of your ticket data. And we'll show you exactly how many tickets we can resolve for you. Would that be interesting? And they're like, everybody was like, yes, of course. So there's this like massive disconnect between like marketing not knowing what your customers are saying. And this is like super important. Like if you get the data model correct, right? And you populate, of course, like the opportunity object with like all the fields and other stuff that like you want to track and build reports on. Well, what about contacts? Like these usually they're never updated at all, right? So we'll create the contact role. We'll give explanations for everything, right? So you can always check our work here. What I really like is this promoter score. So this goes like -10 to +10. It's like at a glance here, I can see like, let's pretend there's another one here that's like -4. I can see like, who my champions and promoters are and like who my blockers would be. And I can see why. I can click on this and I can see exactly why. But what's really cool about this is then I can go into the records view and I can quickly say like, I want to build. I'm going to pull in some of our other fields. I'm going to pull in promoter score reasoning, and I'm going to pull in, let's say, like the ICP persona, which is like another classification that we do. Okay, so now I have promoter score reasoning, ICP persona. All right, now I want to filter this and say I want a list of all of the contacts who have ever talked to their ICP persona where their promoter score is greater than or equal to 7. Right? Okay, so now I have this list. I can save this. I can share this with, say, the marketing team. Hey, marketing team, here's who we talk to that loves us. Here's their ICP persona. Oh, and here's why, right? With specific quotes. So instead of like the marketing team going like, hey, who could we talk to about a case study or like a quote for the website or like whatever, it's like here, like there's real live list of all of our biggest champions, why they like us, specific things that they've said. And then if you find one really interesting, just like I showed you on the opportunity thing, you can click into that contact and you can ask additional questions about that, right? Like, hey, maybe I want to build a case study for sales leadership, or maybe I want to build a case study for operations. Maybe I want to build a case study for, C-level, right? C-suite. Like I can filter this even more. Say like, I want when the ICP persona contains, let's say, I don't know, maybe marketing, right? Got a couple. We don't typically talk to marketing people. We should, but sales, executives. I can slice and dice this data very, very quickly any way that I want. I know exactly what to talk about. I know where they work. I know their ICP persona, and then I know where to get the introduction from, who the owner of this record is.
Yeah, that's super powerful. I mean, normally, like you said, marketing teams running around interviewing salespeople, maybe. Usually they're just kind of doing it on
Yeah.
that. And then you also have the bias of the salespeople thinking, oh, why are people wanting to buy? So even though they probably have the best, they're still biased. So to get, hey, here's
Yeah.
literally what was said, and then you can trend it across multiple people and personas. Because I think
Yeah.
messaging, it always has been, but even more so, getting your messaging absolutely dialed in is going to be the most important way to win in
Mhm.
2026. Like you have to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to, right? Like the the channels are like you can't just like buy Sales Loft and like blast out like sequences anymore, right? That doesn't work. Like you can't call people. That doesn't work. Like everybody, no, like AI has killed that, right? Like it's just like completely decimated every single like lead generation channel that we've used before. Um, so what do you got to do? I mean, you got to go back to like good old fashioned marketing, right? Like if you're the one that can talk about the pain that your product solves the most, the best, using the words of your actual ICP, like you're gonna resonate the most. Like that's how you win. Like that's how you start like building more pipeline. Like don't hire a team of like SDRs just to like manage like templated or even like AI written sequences. That doesn't work. Right. Go back to the basics.
Yeah, I think it's like a mix of Mad Men with data. So it's like pour yourself a whiskey and then get all the AI gathered data
Right.
and then make something beautiful happen.
Yeah. I mean, on the product side too, like your product has to be good for you to win. Yeah, it's really good salespeople that try to sell bad products and, they don't do well. It's not because they're bad at sales, it's because like, product hasn't they haven't listened well enough, and, companies die all the time because of that. But like you take this a step further, like it's like really this unified data model, right? Like do I, what am I extracting? If people are no longer the bottleneck through like the amount of data and the accuracy of data that I can collect from the conversations that I'm having with our customers and potential customers, like really you can track anything that you want, right? So I want to know like what are the use cases that are coming up? What are the points of friction? Like what are the competitors that are coming up and how does that map to the use cases that they care about? If I'm a product person, that's what I want to know. They'll talk to customers, they'll use like some, analytics tools to figure out where people are clicking in the UI or whatever, but that doesn't get them all the way there. Like you also have to like listen to what people are saying in the market. Like, I think product teams are too focused oftentimes on like what customer success is telling them and what their biggest existing customers are telling them. Um, so it's like the Wayne Gretzky quote or, whatever. Go to where the puck is going, not where it's at right now. If you talk to your customers, you're where it's at right now. If you like listen to what the field is telling you, then you can start to build towards where the puck is going.
Yeah, and also a bias that your current customers have is they're already locked in with whatever your solution is. So they might not be looking at other solutions right now. It's not top of mind. In their mind, the problem's already solved. So it's like the easiest
Yep.
person who's not giving you the most critical feedback. And I found this too for my own business. When we started Lean Scale in 2021, there were no RevOps agencies. That wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Now they're all over the place. So we would go into places and like we never even experienced going against a competitor before. It was like, we might hire in house or we'll go with you all. But now
Yeah.
we're in plenty of opportunities where it's like, yeah, we're evaluating like 4 different people right now. And like this one said they offered this service or they're supporting these tools. So it's that lens of what we're hearing from our prospects is so much different than if we went to our customers and said, "Hey, what do you like about what we do? And like, where do you think
Yeah.
we can do better?" So you get much more
Yeah.
critical and real feedback from the market.
100%. I mean, I think like what you guys are doing is super clever too. And like I understand why the market is kind of, I think, moving more towards like external rev ops versus like internal because like some of the hardest jobs in the world are like being an internal rev ops person where it's like you're hired, it's like, hey, here's our Salesforce implementation that's been here for 20 years. Like, don't touch it. Because if you do, something's going to break because every time you've tried to remove a field, like it's broken some process down the line. But I think like external, like folks like you, like you're like very cutting edge. So you see like the new tools that are out there, right? Like, hey, well, there is a new, better way of doing things where I think like an internal RevOps person just has to kind of like work with the stuff that they have, you know?
Totally. And that is one component, staying in touch with the market, because when you're internal, you rarely have a ton of time to do like your own research and, figure out what's going on and
Get too busy like keeping Salesforce on, you know?
100%. So even here at Lean Scale, like, yes, we do proactively do some research. Like a lot of our research comes from the podcast and doing content and bringing on new tools and technologies like yourself. Um, but the main source of R&D actually comes from our engagements. We go into a customer, they already have a certain set of tools that they really like, or they're looking at something that they think is really interesting and they are asking if we'll support it. That's how we learn, like, oh, that's something that we can use over here. So the pressure of our
That makes
engagements
total sense.
themselves.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think like, again, like think that like that it makes total sense, right? Like that's what you should do. You should like hire somebody who's seen way more things that like, hey, we have 20 customers or 50 customers, like whatever. And we've used 100 different tools. Your situation, here's what I would use, here's how I would do it. Oh, and we're experts at setting it up. I think and that space is constantly evolving too, especially like go-to-market space. There's new stuff coming out every day. Right.
Yeah. And I think for us, I think it's like high complexity, but actually pretty low variability between companies. Like all the problems are the same and most of the solutions are the same. So if I'm looking at a Series B sales led growth company, they're going to have the same problems and the same recommendations are going to help them. It's very complex, so it's hard to know exactly what the right answer is, but that right answer will fit across most companies. So that's why outsourcing something like RevOps, I think makes sense. There's a lot of things I struggle to find a lot of really good like outsource SDR companies, just because I
Mhm.
think like the messaging is unique and like I think
Yeah.
and outsource sales and then outsourcing product, like sales and product, those really, really have to be internal.
Yeah.
Like that's the heart of the company. You can't put the accountability
It
with
is,
some.
especially early on. Like if you're Nutanix or some like, big behemoth and you want to go just through channel, then that might work. But yeah, not early on. Like you can't, you have to have that in-house early on for sure.
Absolutely. Robert, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for walking us through the platform. I think I'll start with the beginning. You really solved one of the most viscerally painful problems that people experience, getting data from calls and meetings and emails into the CRM in an organized fashion so that you can actually start to do something with it. You can start coaching your reps. For the rep themselves, they have a clear path to close for each one of their opportunities. They know who to follow up with, when to follow up. And I think I can't say it enough. It's so intentionally designed. And you can tell that the people building the product have done sales before, which can be rare sometimes. So it's just very, very well designed and well built. So I'm really excited about what you all are doing, and I know there's probably so much on the roadmap that'll be launching soon too.
Yeah.
But just in closing, what's the best way for people listening to get their hands on GTM Engine, get in touch with you or somebody from your team?
Yeah, I mean, most obvious thing, just go to the website, gtmengine.ai. There's a cool little demo that you can do. So if you have like a call recorder already, drop a transcript from that into that, and like we'll show you all the structured outputs and how it would look in Salesforce or HubSpot as well, just so you can like validate it on your own data. Like, oh, cool. Well, I actually didn't know that. Yeah. So takes a couple minutes to run, because these AI processes are running. We basically spin up like, 50 to 60 agents to like process the data and look at it from different angles and whatever. But you can like kind of see for yourself if that looks cool. Reach out to us. Yeah, we can get you set up and get going. Actually, implementation isn't super hard either. Typically like 30 minutes to an hour, like setup, field mapping, then it just processes and you're good to go.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, for anyone listening, head over to the website. I think you'll be really impressed with what they're doing. And Robert, thanks again so much and can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.